From your perspective as a thought leader in the industry, how has customer experience changed, evolved in the past month, a few months actually during COVID, and how do you see it evolving going forward?
I think kind of in the last kind of months, particularly, I think with the pandemic, I think if anything, it's kind of emphasized how business critical customer experience actually is. I think with the digital kind of acceleration, now we've got consumers who are just so much more kind of tech savvy. I think the expectations are a lot higher, and they've been exposed to kind of a lot of businesses having to kind of operate, via the digital channel. And so I think what this kind of has an impact on is that we have to be so much more kind of on top of providing very good kind of memorable customer experiences. And I think the customer experience is very much around driving the right kind of perception from a consumer perspective, which obviously then comes down to making sure that it's relevant and personalized and has some meaning.
There's a lot more talk about it, which is arguably a very good thing, but I think there's also, when I look on LinkedIn and some of the forums, there's explosive amount of conversation around CX. What it actually means. I think there's some confusion around that. I think there's some confusion around actually how important it is, and also where it sits. Is it a marketing thing? Is it a service thing? Does it fall under the finance division? Is it a chief exec thing? Or actually does it need some kind of new C-level representation on the board? I think there's a lot of conversation around that, which to me says that the business case for CX is actually quite hard to pin down. So I think lots of talk in the last 2 years, I'd say really, but I'd say maybe some confusion still.
I think it evolved tremendously, right? So customer experience and customer service used to be kind of used interchangeably, right? People used to think it's basically the same thing, but it's so much more than that. It's each and every touch point you have as a brand with your customer. It could be, talking to a CSR, you're going online to buy something, literally every touch point. So it's no longer, just about the price and the product. Customers are paying a lot of attention to what kind of experience, they are left with after literally every interaction. So I read somewhere as a stat that 86% of buyers are willing to pay more for a great customer experience. So as you can imagine, this is going to get more and more traction because brands have to invest. They have to make sure they have the best customer experiences, put everything they have to make, that connection.
I mean, COVID-19 didn't necessarily shift anything so egregiously. It more accelerated trends that were already occurring into a period of time that had, yet been unseen. So when we think about digital transformation over the last year, I think there's a couple of really key trends for customer experience that were super critical. First being that we weren't beholden to this in-person experience, meaning that we were focused digital first all the time. And what that allows us to do, and what we've been pushing for, and of course, given my background in analytics and machine learning, is really treating each customer individually, hyper-personalized. Every experience can be different, and you don't have that burdensome constraint of having to have the in-store consistency. Every single customer can be treated independently. But with that promise of digital transformation, it's also created hyper awareness over privacy and all of the information that's being exchanged on the web. So what it's really, those two kind of facts and trends coming together has brought us to a realization that privacy, hyper personalization combined gives us a need for this value exchange in the customer experience that I think a lot of organizations had flirted with before, but maybe not formalized. And I think we've also learned that, just asking for customers for their data, asking them for what interests them, gamifying the experience, making it engaging and immersive is a far better way than trying to infer or purchase data that one might be outdated, two might not be contextualized, and three might simply be inaccurate. So it's all coming together, and I do think loyalty programs and engagement programs are the vehicle to achieve that.
Good question. And look, I think we have to talk about privacy compliance, privacy compliance is one of the big trends. It's been around for a while, and it's going to be a disruptor. And also the decisions by device manufacturers like Apple. Recently, we're here in June. Apple just dropped a mail bomb, IP addresses, et cetera. So those ecosystems, have been a huge disruptor, and even into the OWNs channels. So, cookies, et cetera. How do you use that data, or what data do you need? Also getting explicit opt-in. I think that is a giant trend that has always been important. You should always get explicit opt-in from the people you're communicating with. But that's the rocket fuel you need behind email, SMS, in-app push, through your loyalty platforms and your customer engagement strategies. And then lastly, we're all seeing, brand promise and brand safety. That's increased in consumers' minds. So keeping your brand above board, finding out what consumers feel are their values and how you relate with that, that's an increasing need for marketers in today's environment.
I guess I'd look at it from two different perspectives. First, from the customer perspective, and especially given the pandemic and all of the change over the past 12 to 18 months, I think what consumers are looking for has changed fundamentally. The ways that we work, the ways that we learn, the ways that we do interviews like now have all changed. The way we connect with one another is completely different. And I think our focus on local and causes and security and safety, all of those things have become forefront in our minds as consumers. And I think that's really impacted a lot of what customer experience needs to incorporate and what it means to consumers from their perspective. And I think obviously everything's become a lot more digital, a lot faster. So in terms of accelerating the change that we've seen coming for years, those changes have happened quite rapidly and I think are here to stay. And all of those things impact customer experience. From a marketer's perspective, I'm really excited about a lot of those things because I think for a long time, we've seen the opportunity to be able to connect with customers across every touch point, from the very first time they become aware of a brand, all the way through them becoming a loyal advocate and a frequent customer of the brands that we're working with. And we've taken the opportunity at Lacek and at Ogilvy over the past 12 months or so to really develop and accelerate our own notion of customer experience and loyalty. And we've launched this conceptual framework, which we call Total Loyalty, which is all around how can we get to know customers better, and not just from a transactional perspective, but from an emotional bond perspective. How can we pull creativity through the relationship to introduce and inject more of that brand emotional connection into the relationship? And then how can we really personalize everywhere, again, from that first brand touch all the way through, the very peak of the customer life cycle. So I'm really excited to bring all of those things to life. And I think customer experiences are going to be more holistic and delivered more consistently across every single touch point.